Imagine a place so powerful that global markets whisper its name before sunrise. A place where one street holds more wealth than entire countries, where every oceanfront gate hides decisions that can move stocks, shift industries, and redraw influence overnight. You won't find flashing signs or loud headlines here because real power doesn't advertise. This is a shoreline where billion-dollar choices are made in silence, where the Atlantic listens before the world does. Private jets land quietly, blacked-out convoys pass unnoticed, and behind walls you'll never cross, fortunes are protected, multiplied, and positioned for the next decade, not the next quarter. What you're about to see is not a vacation destination. It's a strategic stronghold, a place where wealth clusters with intention, where privacy is currency, and where 58 billionaires chose the same stretch of sand for one reason only: advantage. Stay with me, because once you step inside this beach, you'll never look at money, power, or location the same way again. Picture a narrow strip of land where the Atlantic Ocean doesn't just meet the shore, it meets capital, influence, and long-term thinking. This is not a beach in the traditional sense. It's a living map of global wealth, a place where decisions made behind closed doors ripple through markets, industries, and even governments. When people refer to this area as Billionaire's Beach, they're not using a nickname for drama. They're describing a measurable reality, an oceanside town in Palm Beach, Florida, that has become home to at least 58 billionaires, more than almost anywhere else on Earth, concentrated in such a small geography. What makes this place remarkable is not just the number, but the intent behind it. Wealth at this level is rarely accidental, and geography is never chosen casually. This shoreline represents the convergence of capital preservation, lifestyle optimization, and strategic positioning. These homes are not trophies, they are statements. They say something very clear about how the world's most successful individuals think about time, risk, and control. Walk along South Ocean Boulevard and you'll see properties that quietly redefine what valuable means. Estates trading hands for tens of millions of dollars, sometimes more, not because of excess, but because scarcity commands a premium. There is only so much oceanfront. There's only so much privacy. There are very few places where both coexist with political stability, legal clarity, and economic benefits. That scarcity is the real asset. This town has become a magnet for those who operate at the highest level of global finance, technology, real estate, and industry. The combined net worth of its billionaire residents approaches $500 billion, a figure that rivals the economic output of entire countries. When wealth of this kind clusters, it changes the character of a place. Conversations shift, networks deepen, influence compounds. But this isn't about indulgence. It's about the environment. Florida offers a tax structure that rewards productivity and long-term capital allocation. Add to that year-round accessibility, elite security, and a culture that understands discretion, and you have something rare, a place that allows powerful people to live quietly while thinking very big. Billionaire's Beach is not loud. It doesn't need to be. Its power lies in concentration, not display. The decisions made here don't happen on the sand. They happen over dinner tables, in private studies, and during early morning walks along the water. This shoreline is less a destination and more a signal that wealth, when managed intelligently, seeks alignment between lifestyle and leverage, between privacy and proximity, between success and sustainability. This is what happens when the world's highest achievers choose the same place to call home. People often assume that extreme wealth chases spectacle. In reality, it chases efficiency, certainty, and control. The reason this oceanside town draws the world's wealthiest individuals has far less to do with glamour and far more to do with precision. At the highest level of success, lifestyle is not about indulgence. It is about optimization. Every decision, including where to live, is evaluated through the lens of long-term advantage. This place offers something increasingly rare in the modern world: predictability, predictable governance, predictable taxation, predictable quality of life. When capital is mobile, stability becomes priceless. Florida's financial and regulatory environment sends a clear signal. Capital is welcome here. and it will not be punished for existing. For individuals managing complex portfolios, global enterprises, and generational wealth, that clarity matters more than headlines or prestige addresses. Then there is privacy, true privacy, not the illusion of it. This is a community built around discretion, gated estates, controlled access, private security, and an unspoken social contract that values silence over attention. In a world where visibility often becomes a liability, the ability to live without constant exposure is not a luxury, it is a necessity. Here, influence doesn't need to announce itself. It operates quietly, effectively. The physical environment plays a role, but not in the way most imagine. Yes, the ocean matters. The light matters. The space matters. But more importantly, these elements create clarity. High performers understand the value of an environment that sharpens thinking rather than distracts it. Mornings that begin with calm waters and evenings that end without noise create mental bandwidth. And mental bandwidth is one of the most undervalued assets in the world. This town also offers proximity without pressure. It is close enough to global financial hubs, international airports, and major business centers to remain connected, yet far enough removed to avoid friction. That balance is difficult to engineer and almost impossible to replicate. It allows global operators to remain engaged without being consumed. There is also a powerful network effect at work. When individuals who think in decades rather than quarters live near one another, something subtle but significant happens. Conversations deepen, ideas compound, relationships form not around status but around shared perspective. This is not a social scene. It is an ecosystem, one where experience, capital, and judgment circulate efficiently. Finally, there is legacy. People who build at scale think beyond themselves. They think about family, continuity, and impact. This town offers an infrastructure that supports that mindset, from estate planning to philanthropy to cultural institutions that reflect permanence rather than trend. The reason the ultra-wealthy are drawn here is simple. This environment eats what they value most: time, discretion, stability, and the freedom to think long-term. Everything else is secondary. Real estate at the highest level is never just about land or buildings. It is about positioning. On this stretch of coastline, property functions less like shelter and more like a strategic asset, one that combines scarcity, permanence, and control in a way few investments can. This is why the homes along South Ocean Boulevard are spoken about in the same breath as major financial holdings. They are not purchased impulsively. They are acquired deliberately. Oceanfront property is finite by definition. There will never be more coastline than what already exists. And when zoning, preservation laws, and community standards restrict overdevelopment, scarcity becomes structural. That scarcity drives value, but more importantly, it protects it. In markets defined by volatility, assets that cannot be replicated offer something rare: durability. These estates sit at the intersection of geography and policy, shielded from the forces that erode value elsewhere. The price tags, tens of millions, sometimes far beyond, are often misunderstood. They are not expressions of excess. They reflect the cost of certainty. Buyers at this level are not speculating on appreciation alone. They are securing optionality. The ability to live, host, transact, or disengage entirely within a single controlled environment is a form of leverage that doesn't appear on a balance sheet, but it is deeply understood by those who operate at scale. Architecture here is intentional. These are not showpieces designed for attention. They are built for longevity, privacy, and adaptability. High walls, deep setbacks, expansive lots, and custom construction allow owners to shape the property to their needs without compromise. In many cases, the land itself is the prize. Structures can be modified, expanded, or replaced. The location cannot. There is also a defensive element to this real estate strategy. When global markets fluctuate, when political climates shift, when currencies weaken, tangible assets in stable jurisdictions become anchors. Oceanfront estates in this town serve that function. They are insulated not only by geography, but by demand from a very narrow, very resilient buyer pool. That demand does not disappear in downturns. It consolidates. Beyond financial logic, there is control. Control over access, control over exposure, control over the environment. These properties allow their owners to exist without friction, to conduct business privately, entertain selectively, and withdraw completely when necessary. That level of autonomy is increasingly rare, and its value is compounding. What makes this real estate truly powerful is that it blends lifestyle with strategy. It offers beauty without distraction, luxury without vulnerability, and permanence without rigidity. These homes are not monuments to wealth. They are tools used by people who understand that where you place yourself physically has consequences for how you operate professionally. Along this shoreline, real estate is not passive. It is active capital, quiet, resilient, and intentionally positioned to endure. When wealth reaches a certain scale, it stops being just personal and starts becoming systemic. That is what makes this oceanside town so significant. It is not simply a collection of expensive homes. It is a concentration of economic power rarely found in one place. The combined net worth of the individuals who live here approaches $500 billion, a figure that rivals the total economic output of many nations. When that level of capital is clustered, its impact extends far beyond property lines. This concentration changes how influence works. Decisions made in quiet rooms here can affect markets thousands of miles away. Capital allocations, philanthropic commitments, political contributions, and long-term investments often originate in places like this. Not because they are designed to, but because this is where experience, resources, and authority intersect. Power at this level does not announce itself. It operates through access and alignment. What's striking is how understated this environment remains given the scale of wealth involved. There are no towering headquarters or visible symbols of dominance. Instead, influence is embedded in networks. Proximity allows for trust, and trust accelerates decision-making. When individuals with decades of experience managing risk and opportunity live within minutes of each other, collaboration becomes frictionless. Conversations that might take months to arrange elsewhere happen organically. This clustering also creates resilience. Wealth dispersed is powerful. Wealth concentrated among disciplined operators is transformative. During periods of economic stress, capital in this town doesn't panic. It positions. It looks for dislocations, long-term opportunities, and structural advantages. That mindset is reinforced by the environment itself. This is not a place driven by short-term cycles or emotional reactions. It is shaped by people who think in decades. There is also a civic dimension. High concentrations of wealth inevitably influence the cultural and philanthropic landscape. Museums, medical research, education, and infrastructure often benefit from the presence of individuals capable of funding initiatives at scale. The impact is subtle but profound. Institutions become stronger, communities become more resilient, and long-term projects become feasible. Importantly, this town demonstrates how capital seeks alignment with governance. Stable legal frameworks, predictable policies, and respect for private enterprise attract not just money, but stewardship. People with this level of wealth are not looking to extract value quickly. They are looking to preserve and deploy it intelligently. That requires an environment that understands responsibility as reward. The global significance of this place lies in what it represents. It shows how modern wealth organizes itself, quietly, strategically, and with an emphasis on longevity. This is not about extravagance. It is about concentration, coordination, and the ability to influence outcomes without spectacle. In this town, the capital doesn't shout. It compounds. At the highest levels of success, tax policy and regulation are not side considerations. They are central variables. People who manage vast amounts of capital understand that the rules of a system shape outcomes just as much as talent or timing. This is one of the quiet but decisive reasons this oceanside town has emerged as a magnet for global wealth. It exists within a framework that rewards long-term thinking rather than punishing it. Florida's absence of a state income tax is often mentioned, but rarely understood in full context. This is not about avoiding responsibility, it is about efficiency. When capital is not eroded by layered taxation, it can be redeployed into businesses, philanthropy, innovation, and infrastructure. Over time, that compounding effect becomes enormous. For individuals operating at scale, even marginal policy differences translate into meaningful strategic advantages. Equally important is regulatory clarity. Ambiguity is expensive. Unpredictable rule changes introduce friction, distort incentives, and discourage long-term investment. This environment offers consistency. Proper thank you rights are clearly defined. Legal processes are transparent. That predictability allows individuals and enterprises to plan years, even decades ahead. When you are building for the long term, stability is not optional. It is foundational. The broader business climate reinforces this advantage. Florida has positioned itself as a place that respects entrepreneurship and capital formation. That respect attracts not only money, but decision makers. When leaders relocate, they bring networks, expertise, and opportunity with them. Over time, this creates a self-reinforcing ecosystem where ideas and investment circulate efficiently. There is also a psychological dimension that often goes unspoken. Environments signal values. This town signals that success is not something to apologize for, but something to be managed responsibly. That matters to people who have spent their lives taking calculated risks and creating value at scale. They are not looking for validation. They are looking for alignment between their efforts and the systems they operate within. Tax and regulatory advantages alone do not build communities. What makes this place distinctive is how those advantages are paired with quality of life, security, and discretion. This allows individuals to focus their energy where it matters most, decision-making. When you remove unnecessary friction from daily life, cognitive capacity increases. That, in turn, improves judgment. Ultimately, this environment demonstrates a broader truth about modern wealth. It flows towards systems that are coherent, stable, and forward-looking. People who think in generations choose places that respect continuity and reward discipline. This town has done exactly that. The result is not just an influx of wealth, but an accumulation of leadership, experience, and long-term vision, all operating within a system designed to let capital work, rather than fight the rules surrounding it. So when the sun sets on this stretch of sand, don't mistake the quiet for calm, because long after the beach is empty and the lights dim, this place stays awake. Behind those walls, tomorrow's markets are being shaped, future empires are being planned, and decisions with global consequences are being made, not in boardrooms, but in living rooms overlooking the Atlantic. This beach isn't famous because billionaires live here. Billionaires live here because this place works. And while the world watches headlines, follows trends, and chases noise, the real power remains exactly where it has always been: silent, concentrated, and steps ahead. You've now seen where influence comes to rest. The only question left is this: who's thinking far enough ahead to understand why?